Good to go.
All right. All right. So folks, welcome to our Wednesday. I guess we'll go ahead and call this to order at 6. It's like what we did exactly the same time we did last time, 6:32 p.m. And if we could go ahead and get a roll call and we'll again, just for ease, we'll do it alphabetically again. So we'll start with Christina.
Linnea Gustafson.
Emily Lato.
And Tracy Wascom, present, which means we have quorum, so we can move forward with our business.
Make a motion to excuse Stephen and Maureen?
Oh, I suppose we should do that in terms of roll call.
I can make a motion to excuse them.
I
Can we
can
get a
second it. I second it.
All right, so all those in favor? Aye or yes? Yes, okay, passes unanimously. Thank you for that reminder, Tina. Emily, is that a question or a?
No, I was just
Assistant hand.
actually, I was just writing and
That's okay. I just wanted to check. So at this point, I'd also need to, would it be useful for me to share my screen to have the agenda up at the
Yeah.
same time? Okay.
that would be useful.
All right. So can y'all see my agenda and screen now?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right. So with that, we need to have everybody, and if you haven't already, please take a look at the agenda. And at this point, we can make a motion to sort of address it. So I need a motion.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, and a second.
Second.
Do we have any discussion on changes, additions, or alterations that need to be made? Okay, so then all those in favor, please say yes or raise your hand so Emily can take the vote. Yes. Okay, so that passes unanimously. We also need to confirm the minutes. Oh, that's not minutes. Sorry, that is notes that I took on things though. That's a PDF file this time. Sorry about that. There we go. I do have one edit to make to these minutes. And since Maureen has that, I'm not exactly, we'll just sort of have to pass that on to her and have it done. It's just a small correction in terms of the language that was used to describe the report, just so that it's clear that the American for the Arts was actually a conference, that the thing about monuments was about care of monuments, particularly don't use bleach, and that the modules that were discussed was about Artsopolis. So it was just a clarifying series of language about that. So I can pass that on to her so that change can be made. Are there any other additions or changes that other folks might have noticed or would request? Nope, I'm seeing lots of no shaking here, so that sounds fantastic. So with that, we need a motion to approve these minutes with the requested changes.
I can't do it because I wasn't here.
I can make a motion to approve
Okay,
with changes.
Christina, are you willing to second?
Yeah.
Okay, Christina seconds. So in that case, those of us who can vote, are we in favor of changes? Please say aye. Aye. Yep. No opposed, and Emily is abstaining because she was not here last time. All right. So with that, and I needed, this should say, and I had changed it on my original version when I sent it out, that should say the chair report. So that was an edit that actually should have been made. I'm actually keeping mine really, really short because we have plenty of things to discuss. Right now, I did the presentation on Monday, which I think cumulatively went well. I went over my time. 10 minutes is really no time to say hardly anything. If you want to give people a reasonably good insight or overview in terms of what we did, but hopefully they've got a pretty good sense. We seem to have a really kind of good set of responses from the commissioners overall. There were some questions that were raised, particularly in terms of the cultural trail, which will be clarified because in part it's making sure that they understand what the role of the Marquette Public Art Commission is in relationship to the cultural trail, that we are not the spearhead nor the group that is responsible for facilitating it. We are just one of the other pieces in the puzzle, right, of that whole scenario, specifically the public art part of it. But we are definitely there to offer our guidance and insight. I did have, I'm gonna blank, let me go, I'm gonna wrote a set of notes down here. One of the city commissioners did reach out to me in hearing about the project backboard, and specifically she has a relationship with the Rotary, and the Rotary is very interested in talking with us about partnering in terms of potential fundraising for the project backboard. So that is very, very exciting. And there may be some other partnerships that open themselves up down the road. The Rotary is currently helping fund other sort of rehabilitations at Holly Park. And so the prospect and this idea that we were going to actually be thinking about this area anyway for that was very exciting for them. So that's really, really good as we look that we might not be drawing on so much of our monetary budget as limited.
Whoa.
Not sure what that was, as we might otherwise have to. We've got the money, but if we can also make our money go further, that's spectacular. Otherwise, that's kind of the extent of what I really wanted to sort of chat about before we get into, well, the stuff for tonight. So with that, I'll turn it over to Tina and the manager's report.
So we only met, was it last week?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
So really not much of an update from the last time that we met. I would also echo that the presentation was amazing. And then the next day, my director and department heads, they meet the day after the commission meeting, all had really only positive things to say about your presentation, that it was really informative. And I was surprised and excited to see that Sally Davis was really supportive of the Project Blackboard. So that was great. Staff right now, I'm just in grant mode, and staff's in Marquette 365, and we're working on general operations. And so there's nothing new to report that I didn't report on last time.
All right. Well, we've got plenty to do. So that's, I mean, that's actually not a bad thing for that. Right now, I guess next we're on to the Friends of the Marquette Public Art Commission report.
So I'm the one representing that group right now. I think once I did do some correspondence with Mike Forrester. He does have ideas based on whatever the final selection is for the MPAC logo, for the Friends logo, which I asked him about. So I feel like when that Friends logo is done, that'll be something nice for me to share to future Friends members. Right now, it's only me and Jen Beer. And then also with the project Blackboard and some other projects, I think it'll be easier to recruit. Now with, I will definitely talk to Sally Davis to find out people from Rotary who might be interested actually in joining Friends of Marquette Public Art. So, but since we have not met, there's nothing to report outside of my intention as a member.
Linnea?
I had somebody contact me also from Rotary, and that happened to be the person that writes the grants for Rotary. And I had talked to you, Tracy, about this. Would this be a good time to write down those or list those leads, or?
Why don't we hold that? I think I think we probably will make progress to actually get to Project Backboard today, but if we have to, we'll definitely try to tuck those in, even if it's good of the order at the end of things.
All right, I just wanted, I have
No,
that,
that's
and
good.
I wanted to make sure that I report on it. So
Excellent. Okay, so we're on to new business, which means, Linnea, you're about to start talking again. And actually, Emily, we're going to put you in the spotlight for this too, which is to have a hopefully meaningful discussion and a productive one about what our sort of upcoming summer/fall community public art project or projects might happen to be. So I'm going to scoot the agenda kind of out of the way and pull up Linnea's proposal. So I had time between working on stuff today, so I've got comments that kind of tuck down this entire thing, and some of them also address the questions that Tina, you sent out to us about sort of cleanup and other things as well. So I don't know about anybody else, but great job on this proposal. It was really well executed. It was very sort of clear how it would unfold. Thank you for doing the legwork to reach out to the various printers to get multiple quotes so that we could see what those options are. Being able to see the scale of that in terms of like people size, and the fact that you did it at the end of your driveway so we could sort of see that context was just was great. It made it very, very clear and puts this in terms of possibility, like that much closer to being able to sort of tend to the people who would need to look at it, and they would have a vision in essence of what something like this could look like. So I guess I have clearly, there's some thoughts that I've already jotted down along the side of this, and I certainly have some other data that I've pulled together just to help clarify this a bit. But before I do that, I wanted to open it up to Emily, Christina, Tina, in terms of your insights, observations, or thoughts on this.
Who would be the people executing it? Is there a call? Is that what it is? A call, Linnea?
It would be the idea, well, you weren't at the last meeting, but we kind of thought about opening it up to people. It could be individuals or groups, community members that would want to do this. So maybe there's a bunch of college students that one person is going to spearhead it, other people are going to do it. Maybe I even threw the idea out that maybe we do one as MPAC. We have 4 artists and other people that are capable of painting and doing things too. So it was just an idea for anyone who wanted to could propose it. Maybe there's going to be an auxiliary group that does it. Maybe Girl Scouts, maybe Boy Scouts. It could be, anyone.
But my understanding was that it would be somebody from our group that would actually do the outlining of the letters at the location, and it would be the individual who ultimately, or group, that would be filling those letters in. Is that correct?
Had it been August, I could have done that. But yeah. September, I'm back in school. Yep. So if we're in school, that would create an issue for me.
I guess I kind of imagine that there would be an artist that would be hired to do that outlining work. I don't think staff or MPAC maybe should. I mean, it'd be great. We want all to volunteer, or staff had time, but it would be a great opportunity for an artist to kind of be hired to do that.
If we're just asking them to trace things, I mean, I think it would be better to have them have some artistic voice in the project. It's kind of an insult to say, like, can you trace all these letters for us? And then we'll let other people who are not artists do the creative bits.
Or potentially not artists. They may be artists.
Right.
Or hire a non-artist then, or someone that just wants to help out in the project that could do a nice job and is responsible.
I think the tracing part of it wouldn't take much skill. I feel like anyone could do that. And I don't think the tracing of, because that's what the templates are for. So, second graders can trace, but obviously you don't want a second grader doing it. So any grown adult should be able to trace the letters, I feel.
I just think it should be hired. That's what I'm suggesting.
That's fine.
I think you need somebody to be a project manager. I mean, you need to hire out a project manager or somebody to spearhead and be accountable, because otherwise it can go off the rails really quickly, as depending on who all participates and when participation happens. There's a lot of coordinating that would need to take place with this kind of project. Where the supply is going to be, who's going to check out or make sure they're there. Are people going to be able to clean up those? It needs some sort of coordination in order for it to happen.
We could save money if it happens in September. Like I said in my email, staff would have more time. I talked to Tristan today at length about this, and I think some of the requests for proposals in mid-August could actually happen, but if we were actually executing it in September, I feel certain that all 3 staff, including myself, under the guidance of MPAC, you know, kind of we all have a plan of what to do, could do this. You know, the library's closed, and we're not offering any groups to meet in our space, even in September. So we would have the time.
And if we don't know what school's going to look like, so if I'm not teaching in class, I'd be happy to do that. I know I wouldn't be able to apply if it was a paid hired position, because then that would be like a conflict of interest. But I would definitely be interested in, you know, doing it. But there's too much unknown with what's going to be in September for me. 650 kids in 1 week is terrifying, I think, but you know.
Christina?
Yeah, so overall, I think this is fantastic, and thank you so much, Linnea, for putting the work into it. I think one thing that might be good, maybe for a starting point, is just to kind of agree on our goal with the project. So I will say, when I left the last meeting, I know we were kind of all tasked with thinking about, you know, some ideas or some potential locations and such. And so I initially wasn't super in favor of the bike path, and that to me was just kind of the I just think it's a weird optic once it gets painted over. And so I was initially, I think I had left the last meeting thinking more in terms of something like a mural, or, you know, various kind of pop-up murals throughout the city. But then the more I was thinking about, and so in my mind, that was more of a, well, similar to what you had sent out, Emily, and it was more of kind of procuring or working with maybe art professionals who are, you know, out of work or impacted by the pandemic and such. And I think that once I saw this, though, Linnea, I absolutely love this. And I think it, oh my gosh, I apologize for the dog in the background. I think it just kind of brings the accessibility to this project so much more, in that it gets really anyone from the community involved. Like you said, it can be Girl Scouts, or it can be, you know, local college students. And that was something that really struck out to me about this, that I wasn't necessarily initially thinking about, but I do really like. And I'm going to put myself on mute really quickly.
I think it's great if artists do, you know, I think artists, if they did it too, that would be wonderful. Someone also mentioned that they heard that the lack of garbage cans around the beach, and someone had suggested having people paint garbage cans to be distributed around the area. So that would be another thing that could be more down the road, not necessarily for this. So if we didn't do a whole big open to the community here, if you wanted to focus more on artists, like Emily and Christina had mentioned too, for this, that's, you know, completely doable, because there are some other projects that we can open up to the community that would be a little bit on a smaller scale.
Let's think about that for next 4th of July, because we are talking about putting more garbage cans at McCarty's Cove and Officer. So it'd actually be kind of a cool way to bring attention to cleanup.
Okay, so you all have left me a perfect segue, and I thank you for all of this. Not so much about the garbage cans, but about this whole thing. So let me pull this up. So Linnea had talked to me a little bit, so I have a bit of information about certain costs that are already kind of in place. So I know the paint was about $40 a gallon. We have 10 colors, and keeping it to a standard palette of, right, the kind of red, orange, yellow, blue, green, violet, cyan, magenta, white, and black. We've got pretty much anything people would want to mix. Thinking about miscellaneous supplies, the product that we could use if we are not able to power wash that exterior grade acrylic paint off of the bike path. Blackjack asphalt sealer is the same thing you use to seal asphalt and recover it. That as a possibility exists. It covers about 125 to 150 square feet, which is approximately one of the words that we might do. And it's about $30 for a 5-gallon container. I've got that cost on another sheet. I'll pull it up, or at least the other stuff as well. Thinking about miscellaneous supplies that we could have, as well as things that we would need. You use a broom actually to apply that stuff. We've resealed our driveway back before we had it re-poured with concrete. And rounding up with a little bit of buffer, it's about $1,350. If we also need to get things like cones to block off areas while those areas are being painted, that might go up. If those are available through the city, we can
Yeah,
borrow
they would
those.
be.
That sort of takes some money off the table. 72-inch high letters, doing the math off of Linnea proposal, are about $95 a letter, right? Which is kind of costly, but it doesn't mean, especially if we continue this project next year, and if we're not thoughtful, and if we're thoughtful about the words we choose, which is what I kind of did here, we could actually do 5 words for $1,400, because of they're just the way things overlap, work that way. And it would allow us to potentially work at 5 different locations. And this is just my first throw right at this thing this afternoon, which, assuming we gave ourselves also a little bit of buffer room, that's $3,000 out of the $6,000 that we allocated, which would mean that there would be money that we could also still allocate potentially to something like that creative neighborhood program, which would include like the part that when Steve Hughes sent the email about kind of like site specific work that he had talked to Summer Cleary about. So it doesn't mean that they would be mutually exclusive. We could potentially do 4 of those kind of grants that were inspired by the link that Emily sent to actually do both, and then still have a little bit of stuff extra. So we would still have like another $1,000 set aside to potentially use, because there's costs that show up regardless of how well you plan. So that was my thought. And I'm a big fan of, if we can manage to find a way to do more than one thing and do it in an effective way, to try to do it, because I think both projects offer some interesting possibilities. The one, which is one of the things I really love about Linnea's project, is that it could engage artists in the community or designers in the community, but it could engage school kids or retirement groups or like whoever, right? I mean, it could be a broad spectrum of people who might ultimately come together around a word and a location. Whereas, and this is where I'm going to come here, and I also did pull up their application to look at this too, whereas this project would very specifically target sort of facets of neighborhoods, which again could be another way to bring public art to different other locations. So I'm not saying that's what we should do, but I wanted to show you that I think we could do it if that's something that folks were interested in and potentially pursuing.
Now, were you thinking like it would be murals on like the 4x8 potentially plywood, like at one point, or because if it was something that
No, this would actually be, if it's this part of this project, it's that an individual artist or group would propose a specific, they would have like, you have $500. You've got $500 to do a thing. And the way that the application did for Boulder is, you know, they sort of fill it out. How did you find out about it? Do you meet these sort of core requirements? What is your artistic practice? Documentation, like they do it tied to, did your arts business actually lose work? Because they see it as a kind of economic stimulus, right, for the arts community. And then ultimately is, what do you plan on doing? Like you have $500. So if you can be like super affordable, i.e. you're working with found wood from the forest, your $500 goes a really, really long way. If you're doing something that is more material intensive, then your labor costs aren't going to be paid more because you're spending more on your materials. So I think this would really be dependent on who comes forward with what. And if we only get a few applications, then, you know, we only get a few applications for that. But I do think that there is something that could be really good about this too.
We've been starting it out with a small amount as a pilot project. I think it's really good. The application was intended to be super simple so that it wouldn't be, sort of prohibitive, like a prohibitive thing to apply for.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you could tweak it to better fit our situation. but that it provides exposure to professional artist work, and it helps stimulate that economy when there aren't in-person examples available at art centers or at museums right now. Like, I don't know, I had 2 exhibitions that were either postponed and one was really postponed for a year. And those are like, you as an artist, you get revenue from your work and exposure, and that has a sort of a longevity to how you might exist or make money. And I think that that's important to help facilitate that in some way. Not saying that we're like a business, but saying that we're also providing community exposure to artists.
I'd like to say that what I love about this project in Boulder is that it really engages the community and forces them to think about where they live. You know, they get to make the choices. And right now, the policy in Marquette, as far as murals, is as long as it's not a sign representing what you sell, a mural can be anywhere. So I like the idea that it puts, in this, what I'm thinking, the onus on that person to talk to people in their community. You know, hey, what do you think about a mural in this home or this building? And then maybe, if that's the case, they just write us, the building owner writes us a letter that they give permission, right?
And that's, of course, if it isn't mural, because it could be sculpture. It could be, it doesn't.
Right. It could be anything. But just that, you know, they're working with private owners, and that just gets the communities, neighborhoods talking.
Oh, so yeah, I think it's a great community engagement tool as well.
Yeah. And then the other thing I wanted to mention about the groups that potentially could do the, was it 5 words you're suggesting, Tracy? Or
well, I'm just saying, I think if we're clever about the words we pick, we could do 5. We could also choose to not do that many. I was just looking at words that were kind of in Linnea's list, and then a few words that kind of just popped up in my head today.
I would like to suggest that the Public Art Commission considers one of those words could be for senior artists that have been participating in the senior arts program. It could be facilitated by the Senior Center. They haven't been able to meet, and they were meeting twice a month for years. And we probably would get more people that would be interested. So at least to set aside one. One could maybe be dedicated to school children, and maybe there's 2 that we dedicate to professional artists, but you could divide it up to at least earmark, you know, words that are going to be dedicated to a demographic maybe.
So how do folks feel about the idea of dedicating a word to a specific group?
I want to say yes, but I feel like we just started limiting it.
I think when we,
you know what I mean?
Select, we can keep that in mind and try to, you know, we want to encourage them to create maybe 4 or 5 proposals, a word, you know, and then we can hopefully pick one.
Here's another thought. What if the Senior Center paid for one of those words?
Ooh, that also is a pay to play. I don't like that.
Okay. No,
I appreciate that idea of reaching out to a specific group. I think the fear becomes, why that group and not another group? And suddenly we've started to weigh one group's contributions and impact in a community over an individual's. And if I think at least I will speak at least from my position as chair, my sense is that we're here to bring as many different diverse voices through this project, from what I understand from what Linnea has put forward, and to suddenly say you, because we've decided that somehow, for example, the word respect is more intrinsically tied to this group, that this other group of people can't have that discussion around that word. I think that's risky. Obviously, yes, we're going to make a choice when it comes down to it, but I would also, as we're thinking about whatever protocols we implement to make the selection, we may want to decide if we go through an initial blind selection where we don't know who submitted, right, a particular word, so that in the same way that the jury shows that you're not automatically picking or dismissing somebody based off of, right, the name that's associated or affiliated with something.
Mm-hmm.
Linnea?
I also think that, like, one, you know, if we already have that person, the same person shouldn't be able to get 3 different ones because they
Right.
submitted 3.
Or the same group.
You know what I mean? The same
I
group.
agree.
But if you submitted a proposal for each word, your chances are going to be greater of getting
It's kind of
one
like the lottery, right? There's like the more chances. And I think that is good. So I would absolutely like reaching out to them and saying, please, right, submit to this, like come
Right.
up with, I think that I feel very comfortable in the same way that we reach out to the whole community. And if certainly in your role as, right, the director of arts and culture, if you want to do that, I think there's nothing wrong with
Right.
that. I would be reticent to. Now, if they want to get their own letters and do it in front of a location that they choose to, that's their project, right? But I agree with that case, Emily, right? It's not a pay to play. We can point you in the right direction for the resources, but we're not saying that because you
Yeah.
can afford to do it, we're going to let you do it.
Could we lend them any letters that we have made after the fact if they want to do their own?
I suppose that discussion could come up at a point where it actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's great like, if it
wave.
inspires other people to want to participate. I just think it limiting it to a certain group, I think sets a bad sort of strategy for going forward.
Yeah.
It makes
No, I hear what you're saying, and I'm so glad that you guys brought that up. And I like the idea of them being inspired. For example, the seniors saying, okay, we want a word on our street outside of the center.
That's a whole other thing. And then I
Yeah.
think,
Then
yes,
it
then
could
we could talk
snowball,
about,
you know?
right, sharing templates and doing like, that's a whole other conversation to have.
Okay.
So to answer, so how do folks, because then we would sort of, I guess, let me finish the questions that initially, Tina, you had also sent were these. Assuming we're moving forward with this project, which we haven't voted officially, but we'll kind of get some pieces in place before we make that formal bid. How long do we think how long do we want the murals to stay? Is it as long as they can? Or do you see these as every spring they're going to get repainted and renewed?
That's what I was initially thinking. And so one thing I do really like about the way you had outlined this, Linnea, is that I think, although there's obviously some upfront coordination and there's quite a bit of effort just to get the stencils and all that, I do feel like it's something we can get off the ground pretty quickly, because my only concern is, otherwise then we start pushing into the winter, basically. But yeah, that was my thinking of it, was that it would be, kind of redone each spring or so.
Okay.
So did anyone have a chance to look at the link that was just in on the news about the Sioux painting their crosswalks? They have volunteers that come and touch up every year, and then they add more. I just added the link on Monday or yesterday, I think.
Is it?
But if you scroll down, it's under the, go up. Oh, it's up. I think it's blue up right above respect. There, the bottom one, Sioux sidewalk crosswalks.
All right, so let's.
So it was just a really quick blurb on the news, and I was like, oh, okay, well, that's how they do it. And then they touch it up as needed, and they add more. And Sherwin-Williams donated their paints or different things, so then they got publicity too. But I was like, oh, that's close to home, sort of, UP. And another neat thing, and there's no reason to do crosswalks and in the future and streets, popular areas in town. But I would hope that we at least keep it maybe for a year or two, especially with winter coming. If the snowplows tear it up, I think it should be able to be in good condition for a whole year, if not 2.
Hey, Tina, you might know this better than us, like how often do sort of like bike lanes or things like that have to get repainted? How long do they last? Because I feel like they don't last very long, but I could be wrong.
I can find that out. I don't think they don't necessarily paint them, they re-asphalt them when they're needed. I mean, but I can ask.
I believe we paint everything once a year.
What's that?
That was a lovely sort of
Once a year.
The city
Sorry.
seal.
I believe we paint everything once a year.
Do you really?
Yeah. We contract some of the line painting out, but we also bought our own line painting machine so we could do it every year.
They get scraped so hard from snowplows.
Yeah.
The line painting or the actual are you talking about the asphalt itself,
No,
Emily?
I was talking about the bike lanes on Third Street. Sometimes
Oh,
I feel like
yeah.
they're completely invisible. Like it terrifies me.
Okay, I thought you were talking about the bike path. So yes, I agree, Sean. Yeah, the ones in the city are painted annually. I don't know how the DDA does it because I haven't been able to see them either lately.
All right, so the initial, Christina was like, next year we would do a new round, right? I'm just getting this up. Next year there'd be a new round. Linnea's thinking a year to 2 years, right? Which would mean that if you wanted them to stay maintained, it's quite likely that after being plowed with snow in the winter, they would have to be touched up again next year. I'm not saying no, I'm
bike
just.
path isn't plowed like a road is either, the street, so.
That's true. So it might
That
not be
is
that
true.
much, but it would be, and so you're thinking a year to 2. Emily, if you had a vision for this, how long are you thinking?
I mean, I think you don't want them to look like nobody cares about them. So as needed. But I also then wonder, since it is the winter, I mean, there's salt sometimes on there. They do plow a portion of the bike path. Is it a better project to do in spring? Because you're going to see it for maybe a month or two, maybe a month. And then it's going to be covered in snow or salt or, like, I just don't know, like, what is, like, for viewers, for something that's going to be underfoot and under snow, is the best impact to sort of have it shiny for a whole season, or do we have it shiny for a month? And
Well,
then
if we do September, if they can get them executed in September, we would have September, October, and potentially November, depending on our snow, right? We don't know what our weather's going to be. I will say that my fear of bumping it to spring again is that if something else happens, we're just constantly kicking projects down the road, right? And
I get that completely.
So I guess, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
But I do agree that there's a concern about how, like, I don't want to say cost of benefit part of it, because that's not what I think this discussion is really about, but that how good can it look for its best amount of time, right? So that design sort of is its best version of itself, right? For the most amount of people who might actively see it, right? I think seems to be more what I think you're talking about.
I think we should still do it this year, because that's the whole point, is to get something going, and then we'll see how it weathers. And maybe when we do this, we ask the same people to come and touch it up in the spring, so it looks good for next summer too.
And this is also a COVID, I mean, it might last after COVID, but the idea that it's bringing hope. I mean, I'm just imagining walking along the bike path end of October by myself, no friends around me, depressed, and looking at this beautiful, painting, and that's going to bring me into the winter. And then, since my families and other people's families haven't visited, they're going to be excited to share with them in the spring, if they can visit, what we did. So this year seems a little bit unique because of the pandemic.
Christina? I'm sorry, because I saw your hand pop up, so I just want to make sure that.
I was just going to say, I just wanted to clarify, I'm not saying necessarily we need to paint over it in the spring. I think I'm just being overly pessimistic about the wear and tear over the winter. And then if we do, of course, as long as it can last is great, right? But then if we start talking about maintenance, my question was just kind of who is going to do that? To your point, Linnea, are we going to have, all the original artists come back and touch it up? Otherwise it doesn't really, feel right. So I think there's just additional considerations with that. But I definitely do agree with pushing forward this year.
The other thing that I think is going forward, it doesn't always have to be words. It could be visual images that people propose that are, unique to their work, our community, however, but that it doesn't necessarily need to be linked to language.
So yeah, I think my understanding was that this was a starting place, right? This was something that would be a good touchstone. So are we comfortable saying then, okay. I don't think we're talking about envisioning these words being here literally forever, right? As long as there is a bike path. So is the duration a minimum of 12 months? then?
Or 9 months. I mean, if they look really junky. I don't know if you said a duration. I say, I mean,
Well,
if
they're
they
gonna
time
ask.
out.
Yeah, this
I
was,
think we need to see how it weathers. And if you don't try, you're not going to know.
no, I think that's good, but they're gonna ask, how long do you plan on these things being here?
6 to 12 months.
That's what we need to put down. Okay, that's, we just, and we can work from there. And then we can then see how they go. And we'll have an option to remove, which one I did research, and that yes, acrylic paint can be power washed off of asphalt. Sometimes it works better, right, than others. And if that didn't work, then we can consider a black asphalt sealer, which should just look like asphalt. And that's an image of what that product looks like once it's applied to asphalt. So it should look remarkably like the bike path.
Asphalt.
I have one question.
Go ahead,
I'm
Linnea.
sorry. You said 6 to 12 months, but do you think maybe we should say 6 to 18 so then it could last through the fall and winter and then be scraped in the spring? Because if we're going to paint in September, that would, what do we have to get rid of it in September? It would be better to get rid of it in
Well, if we're
April.
just giving them it could be 6 to 12 months.
Minimum. I'll do that.
Yeah.
There we go. That gives us a buffer, right? So we've got that. How much will it cost? So again, that product runs about, it's actually like $27.70 something. Go ahead.
I would want, well, I mean, obviously we need to make sure that this product is acceptable for a public roadway. It's not a private roadway anymore. It's a public roadway, and that it is, tolerable throughout the conditions we have here, because I'd hate to
Well, at
have
least what that I looked at for I read part of the documentation, and not that my OSHA, but the OSHA documentation and some of their specs, and it did appear to be acceptable. But yes, that's a good thing to make sure that I double check.
I mean, because I've seen some roads when they're doing experimental resurfacing that become quite slippery in the weather that we have here, that are fine in places like California. And I would just hate for
No, we don't want that.
Us to be in a situation where we are causing a accident.
An accident. I agree.
And the paint too. I mean, I don't know if you add grit to it to ensure that it isn't slippery on the surface, but that's something we should think about as well, that doesn't cause an area where somebody would wipe out on a path that's meant to be enjoyed for walkers and bikers.
So that would be. So I do know that, for example, when, and I don't know, I would have to go back and think, we at one point, when one of the houses we were living at earlier in Marquette, we actually had to add a grit into paint for our steps so that our post person wouldn't slip and fall. So we actually painted the treads of our stairs. So Linnea, if you want to, if you'd be willing to reach out to the research you've done with our paint person that you've been talking to, and which also is great because it's a local, it's literally in city limits, local, about what that might look like. That would be great, because I do think that's a good. We don't want to be causing fall downs, right, on this either. My sense is that acrylic paint won't have that same, I don't believe it would have that same issue as it would be some of the new, because it's not the same, because it isn't as durable as certain,
Are you thinking latex or acrylic? I mean, acrylic, latex, or straight acrylic? Latex, right? Is it what you've been saying? Acrylic.
It's what is written down in there. I don't know. Exterior latex is what he told me. Floor paint is a little more expensive, but that would be good too, and maybe a little bit more durable. But he said exterior latex.
Okay.
All right.
At school they paint the curb with, I think, the same stuff, and then they paint the class codes where the kids start their lines, and I think that's all they use too. And then it does, through the winter, it does look not as nice, and they paint it again in August. So it is about a year of looking good.
So in covering up, when we get to that point, if assuming we can't power wash it off, one of those buckets should be enough to cover about 175 square feet. And I did the math earlier, and I think that would cover basically like the word respect. That's enough to cover that if it needs to. So my question, which goes to answer part of Tina's questions, which is, when does the Parks and Rec Advisory Board meet?
So the agenda, I put it on their agenda for next week. I believe they meet next Wednesday. I don't know if you have that in front of you, Sean, if you're listening, when the PRAB meets.
What was that?
Do you know when PRAB meets? Do you have it on your calendar in front of you?
5:30.
Monday.
Which is going to be,
They have a really big agenda. Like, they have a lot of hot topic issues on their agenda. So this was going to be introduced to them and hoping a show of support. And then I had said, well, they said, yeah, this is their territory. They really want, the commission really likes this group's support when it comes to things in park and bike paths. So they're probably going to want to see a very complete proposal. And they could view it Monday, but then maybe it would be their next meeting, which would then be in August. I think August, the week of the 15th, or that week of August, somewhere in the middle of August, they would meet again.
so they have to formally sign off on it before we even can take it to the city?
That's what I need to talk further with John Swenson about it, but that's what the assistant community services manager felt. I mean, again, this is one of our first projects, right? And this is our first time working with other committees. And they're not going to have to approve the art necessarily, but the concept on their turf. Yeah.
I think that's in
They-
our
they
best
might do
interest
that
because it
Monday.
is.
I agree. It
I-
just
They
makes
might
it
do it
known
Monday.
that we're not going to be getting on this till that this will not go into place. If this has to go before them, then it would have to go to the city commission after that. So the
It's
question is,
gonna
can
take
this be
time.
introduced at all to the city commission at basically the next city commission meeting, so that both Parks and Rec and city have seen it concurrently, so that if the city's got issues, we can be addressing that concurrently with any Parks and Rec issues? Because if it has to clear Parks and Rec completely before then it goes and clears the city completely, we're not looking at things until November.
Yeah, so I have my opinion. I'm curious because it's really nice having you here, Sean, as assistant city manager. Do you have thoughts on this? This is new territory for us.
I'm sorry, I've been working on another project. I haven't been listening super close.
Basically, the Parks and Rec Advisory Board is going to look at this proposal of mural on bike path. Would they have to give their recommendation of approval before it would go to the city commission? I mean, we could technically get the city commission's approval probably before. Just wondering your thoughts.
I don't think you can get the city commission's approval before, because they don't meet until the end of the month. I mean, so are they approving an expenditure?
It's money that we're going to reallocate that we already have. You know, that's not a big part of it. They're approving more. It's more of the project, the concept of painting on city bike paths. The money parts.
Wouldn't that be administrative approval? I mean, so feasibly what you could do is you could have the agenda item teed up and written, and just have that line about the Parks and Rec Advisory Board support written into it, and then submit it on Tuesday morning first thing. Or even submit it on Monday with the understanding that if the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board doesn't approve it, then we would deny it. Excuse me. But I would honestly talk to John, because that sounds like an administrative approval item rather than a city commission approval item. I mean, nothing wrong with the city commission seeing it or anything, but usually those
Especially since it's not permanent public art, it's a temporary community art project. So I will try to get approval on Monday, and I'll talk to John about this as well. And then we need to get it to the city commission, the agenda supplement by Wednesday. Is that it, or Thursday, next Thursday?
No, you would need to
Tuesday.
have the agenda supplement. What I would do is I would talk to John tomorrow or Friday about this and see what he thinks about administrative approval. And if it's going to go to the city commission agenda, have the agenda item written and submitted by noon on Monday. And just with the understanding that you'll pull it if the Parks and Rec Advisory Board doesn't support it for whatever reason. That's how I would handle it.
The Public Art Commission's thoughts on all of that you just
Well,
heard?
I mean, this is more your territory, I think. I don't know. I don't know what the
Are we
chain of
gonna be
command
ready?
is.
Are we going to be ready to have something?
Well, I mean, how far, I guess I would ask you, because none of us have actually submitted proposals to the city before, right? So based off of what Linnea's done and with the additional information that we now have, how far off do you think we are on that proposal? Like, do they literally need to, is this proposal for Parks and Rec going to need to know literally every single piece of minutia of logistics, or is what she's given right in there with some addendum in terms of how long we plan on it being there, how we would take, kind of care of it or remove it right when that happens? How
I think
far
you
off
have
do
enough
we are?
details. I think you absolutely have enough details. If they have questions, which they might, it can be amended, or it can be, we can answer those questions. And the budget seems to be really worked out as well. I think we have enough information to create an agenda supplement for sure, as long as John agrees that he can
And
approve
city
it and push it
commission,
forward.
I see you have, final approval in August written down. City commission approval is usually a final step.
I meant
Not
final
really an
approval because
initial step.
because Tina said that actually we might get just an initial show of support from the Parks and Recs Advisory Board, and then we wouldn't get, like, because they've got so many things on their agenda, we wouldn't get their full stamp of approval until August,
Oh, okay.
right? Tina, that was basically how.
I mean, they might not be comfortable making a motion. I mean, maybe a motion of support. I don't know,
So that's the question: is a motion of support from the Parks and Rec Advisory Board sufficient if this is just an administrative approval for this project, right? Versus do we have to have them with their official blessing and fully in place, having signed off 100%
Right.
before
So it sounds like,
the city cast can give their, what we hope is just administrative approval?
right. So it sounds like it's a 2-option thing, right? We might be able to get administrative approval, a show of support, yes, and get an agenda supplement to the city commission on Monday that they can approve at their following meeting. Or
Well, I would, if you don't think the Parks and Rec Advisory Board would have a final vote on this until August, I don't think I would bring it to the city commission with the Parks and Rec decision kind of hanging in the background.
Looming.
oh, right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. If they're not comfortable glancing at it and going, yeah, go for it, they might be that simple. I'll talk to John. If they're not, then it is going to have to wait. That's all
Yeah.
I'm saying. It's going to be one or the other, and we won't know until, well, some tomorrow and then Monday, we won't know.
Yeah.
Is there a chance then, if the city commission would like to see any updates, that then we'd have to go back to the Parks and Rec Board?
I think once you're past the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, you're past the Parks and Rec Advisory Board.
All right. Thank you. That's useful because we're in new waters.
territory. Mhm.
Yeah, thanks, John.
So
Is there some things that we can do to narrow this down a little more then? Should we look at picking words or recommending our words?
I think that's a good idea, because I
Mhm.
think we do need to make some sort of decision about, okay, so let's do this first, before we get into all of this. And then we'll need to make a motion to sort of have this go officially in the minutes. Are you all interested in trying to pursue a singular project, whether that is bike path or the kind of placemaking, I'm going to call it, just for speed and ease, the Boulder, right, sort of inspired project? Or would you all rather pursue both options?
I think we should do both,
Okay,
but one
then-
first and then the
All right.
other.
So then if you all are wanting to, we need to sort of make an official motion second and vote on that path if that is what folks want to do, or to weigh in against the prospect of doing that.
Just real quick before we do that, one question I have, because we didn't really discuss it too much, but with the Boulder style project, do we anticipate that much? To me, that doesn't seem like there's necessarily as much like legwork to get the approvals and to get it up and running. It's more, it seems like that can be tackled more internally. But want to get your thoughts, because otherwise it might make sense to, even if we do both, maybe focus our efforts immediately on the one that does require all the board approvals.
My suggestion would be that we work this proposal, Linnea's proposal, a lot right now, and then once we get the approval for that, then we bring the other project to the forefront, because that will be more on private property, and it would be nice for the city commission to approve it and understand it, and give it, or whoever needs to give us their blessing. But I don't think that it will be as intensive, because we're not necessarily changing city property. Does that make sense? So we could work on this project for this upcoming meeting and work with the Parks and Rec and work to get this through. And then say in 2 weeks or 3 weeks after this has gone through, then we make the other proposal and we set a timeline so that there's things happening and then things also happening. So it isn't just like everything all at once. And with some of those projects, like the city of Boulder, they manage those projects. One woman managed 66 projects. So this, I mean, if it's 4 projects, it's pretty reasonable. They also did things like give feedback like, oh, your project is way too ambitious. How can you scale it down? They didn't try to interject or interfere with projects like that, but they were also like, wow, there's no way that this could happen. Is there something you can do that's sort of more appropriate for the amount of resources that you're going to get? So I think that focusing on this first and then getting something going and then adding the second layer of another project so that we build momentum and we have something going for a longer period of time would be really good.
I agree with that.
Okay, so let's make it official.
So I'll make a motion to start or commence work on 2 projects, the Words on the Bike Path project and a project that involves multiple artists within different neighborhoods of Marquette.
Can we get a second?
Second that motion.
Christina Barron seconds. All those in favor, please say yes or aye. That was unanimous. So we have no no's and we have a few folks absent, but the motion carries, which is super exciting. So with that, we've got information. We've got I think a good starting point. So from here, yes, we need to sort of talk about words and sort of words and location where those words might go.
Are you saying Linnea only has to do this?
No, I'm saying we collectively have to do
I
this.
was like, whoa.
This is us in total.
I rode the bike path the other day though, from like Founder's Landing to Picnic Rocks. And in there's 2 good, I thought there were 2 good locations where it would be easy to be straight, but I haven't had a chance to go into the other areas, and we can try to narrow that down more eventually too, because it sounds like we have time.
Mhm.
But I would like it said, I was trying to pick different areas in different parts of the town. So I know Tracy, you got your words.
Yep, I put them back up. Yep.
These were some that just stood out. Should we start with the south area, South
Sure.
Beach, Founder's Landing, somewhere in between there? You had said possibly Remember.
Yeah, because I will say this, I have a really hard time with the fact that that place is called Founders Landing, as though the place didn't exist before we showed up. And by we, I mean a person who came from a place in Europe, right? Not a person who is actually from this area. So the idea that it needed revitalization, transformation, or evolution before we got here, I have like, I'm gonna like, and I know that's not intentional, like it's not meant to, but I have this sort of feeling like that's sort of like the colonial flag just went and stabbed itself down in that location. And so I'm like, okay, which is why I thought about the word remember, because for me, the word remember means that you could, depending on who submits a proposal, right? It could be something that is tied back to folks who see this as a development of an area, but it could also, if a group who was of an indigenous sort of impetus or sort of focus wanted to come forward, that remember could be right tied to the people who were at a place before another group of people came to that place. And it could just be remember, right? It had the potential, but that was why I had that was my section. Emily, you're looking very pensive and thoughtful.
No, I was just trying to think of just something that I think remember is great because it is an active word. But I was thinking like it tied to memory or
They
history,
could also remember
or
Marquette, like remember that you were here.
It is on the
I mean, but could then if it was like remember Marquette, then it should be like remember what this was called before we decided to stab a flag and call it this.
But somebody could do that, right? Somebody who was within the boundaries of that word could actually write the initial, like the original Anishinaabe, right, word for this place, right? If that's what somebody wanted to submit a proposal, I think, but again, that's why I thought about that word, is that you literally could put inside of it all sorts of things.
What if you were thinking, see, when I was thinking of the space, I was actually kind of down more towards South Beach, how they're tearing down the power plant. So I was kind of down further than Founders. So if we wanted to remember, maybe we should put it in Founders Landing then instead of over at South
But that
Beach.
assumes that's even the word, right? I just was thinking again about a word that had a lot of pliability in terms of how somebody could interpret it, or a group could.
Could we ask, I mean, could people put proposals for their own words? I feel like we're dictating a lot of the project where we're like, this is going to be your word, this is how big it's going to be. Now you work within the parameters of this word. I mean, is it necessary that we dictate every bit of the project?
Not necessarily.
If we want to get it done in September, it is because we need to be able to have the materials and the templates cut, because that's time and labor.
Out to me on that email that you had shared, Linnea, was the I forget who it was, but the person from the sign company was talking about how labor intensive.
Yeah, they are labor intensive.
So, and then that was the idea we thought about when I talked with Tracy on the phone, that next year we could pick a couple words and we could have the community pick their own words and different things, because we would already have some letters and it would be an opening up to,
so this might be just a phase one,
but
again, it could expand to, now that we've got some letters kind of in the bag.
We did think about that, but just to make it happen this year, I think we need to just narrow them down and pick them and do.
You know, I wonder, because it is public money, if people were choosing their own words, if it would delay the project also, because the city commission might want to see what words they chose. Might happen, might not, but just another layer, you know, just a thought.
What if an artist wanted to say, use their own style or fonts? Is that, do they, I mean, and we're ready to like freehand it. Is that allowable, or are we saying no, it has to be a stencil word and that's it?
I originally think on this go round, it's a stencil word and that's it, and you decorate the inside. I was going for semi-consistency with this round. That's my vision of it. But I do like that other idea, and there is the possibility for more, but I was just trying to also make it happen.
Could we, as part of it, to afford a bit of flexibility to it, say that we do the stencil, right? Whatever words we choose, right? And we need to, if we're going to move forward, we've got to pin that down tonight, right? That's a given if we're talking about bringing this forward next week. Could we say that we will basically extend to either side, like basically let the people also paint, and we could set a dimension to either side of the word around the word, right? So they could paint like a background to give them a degree of flexibility and maybe some additional sort of place for decorative flourish, right? Not like 14 feet to either side of it, but basically give them a canvas size, right? Here's your word, and you're gonna get 2 feet on either side of it and top to bottom on the bike path. That's your field. And if you choose not to paint inside that, you don't. Like outside of your word, you don't have to. But if you want to, you can, and that might give some people some more openness, right, in terms of creative possibilities for it.
Or expression, just
Yep,
room
so-
for some expression on the part of the participants.
Because I mean, they will have the
otherwise
inside
it
of the
feels
letters.
a little bit like we're giving them an assignment and like not giving, you have to work within this.
But that's what assignments are anyway. We know that, Em. I mean, assignments are parameters anyway. That like that's the
I
nature.
know, but I just feel like
Well,
what would be more fun for an artist or somebody to know that they had a little bit of room to navigate, and that they, they have these restrictions, but that they're not totally bound to, oh, just color in this word. I think giving them a little bit of space to navigate the project, I think
well,
is trusting in them and giving them a creative experience rather than asking them just to color inside the lines.
Yeah, thinking outside the lines is a good metaphor, Emily.
the words are going to be big because the bike path is 8 feet. And if the words are already 6 feet, if we give them, they can fill the background however they want. That, I guess that would be fine, but
They don't have to, right?
a ton
I
of,
think it's an option, right? I think
Yeah.
the idea is that they could just choose to work within the letters if that's the parameter, and that will be everyone's
Have to
parameter that you have to
limit
deal
them.
with the interior of the letters, but also opening up to the possibility that they could extend beyond the boundaries of those letters, right? The backdrop of those letters, if they choose to. They are not mandated to, but they choose to.
I have a question. You will jury these, so they have to sketch
God,
out their
yes.
idea. So you're going to see.
Yeah, this
their-
is not going to be just like first come, first paint, right?
So you're gonna have an opportunity to see what they have, right?
So Lynette, do you feel like that's still, I mean, since it's a group proposal still, does that still sort of fit?
oh
Okay.
yeah. Well, like, like I was just playing, like with my, 6-year-old who also was doing this project with me. And, like they could, the bike path literally is going to be
Yep.
in that space. So it's mainly the word. And then I started thinking about it. Well, if I'm using like violet, that's going to contrast with the black. We're going to need to have like a 1-inch white or something so that word pops too. So, there's so many different ways, but I feel like you still need to have the border around the word
Mhm.
so that shows up. And if they want to paint the background, fine. If not, whatever. Like, there's about a foot on each side, a foot above, a foot below. If they did a foot or two to each side, that would be fine too. But I think.
Okay. So we can make that addition in the proposal. The words. We need to pick some, and again, we can do the math afterwards on the budgety thing. And Linnea, I'm happy to sit and talk with you kind of afterwards, either tonight or like tomorrow or Friday about that so we can move forward. And the exact spots, like exactly on this spot on the bike path between here and precisely here, we can also pin down. Because that also might be dictated by the Parks and Rec advisory board. They might say, yeah, you can do it down here, but it's got to be between here and here. So I think it'd be good to leave a little bit of flexibility there, dependent on what they might say to us.
I also thought that it would be nice to make it so that the word is readable from the road view. So like, for example, when you're standing in Lower Harbor Park, like there's some electrical boxes, like kind of in front of the birdhouses, like that way, if someone is driving, like senior citizens, and they're not going to get out, they could still be able to see the art from their view instead of it being up backwards. So then you also have the more picturesque backdrop of the Lower Harbor and the Ore Dock behind it instead. Does that make sense? Are you like, and if you're gonna put one on like over by McCarthy's Cove, Picnic Rock area, there's a couple straight stretches just just south of the house, right where Crescent is, and between the flagpole, kind of right where the big party was on the 4th, in that section, there's a nice straight section before it jogs in, where there's a little bit of sand over the bike path. If you've been on it recently, you would know where I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So again, if someone was driving by, they'd be able to look and see it from their car. And then again, your view would be more behind you, even though right there it's trees. But
Okay. So I'm gonna route us back. The words.
Yeah.
We can't keep like, I mean, it's a good thing for us
Okay.
to, but we've got to pin down
Yep.
language.
Okay.
You just maybe pick like our top ones, or
Sure. I'm gonna actually just write them down and then we'll deal. So in that case, Christina, go.
okay. I like respect, community, dream, maybe
Get us
gratitude.
5.
A 5.
Wait, what was?
We're talking about potentially trying to do 5. We need 5.
And I do like remember. I was looking at the list on the left side. That's 5.
No, it's not. I got respect, community, dream, remember,
Gratitude.
gratitude. Okay. All right, waiting on other 2 to weigh in.
Okay, I'll go. I like respect. I like kindness. I like beauty. I like welcome. I like dream. I like remember. I give you more. I think I might give you 6.
Yeah, you did. Okay, but that's all right. We'll go with that.
Now, remember is a long word. Does that
But you
matter?
can see it a few
I'm
times.
just saying, like, do they have to be, when you're looking at them, do you have to read them like this as you're walking, or could you read them like this?
Well, I mean, again, but that's, I think well, actually appreciates pretty long too. If we end up like,
Yeah, I think
it depends. I mean, I don't think we're gonna, go to all of the like, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. That would be like totally absurd, but super fun.
that would be the greatest. I
That would
think
be a
that
really
we could
great
do one
one.
word,
You
and
have
we
to have a
only do
lot
that
of
word.
letters first to get that done.
The whole bike path.
All right, Em.
I really like remember or and gratitude, or yeah, something associated with gratitude. I don't really. I stop there. Those are my 2
You
words.
can't
that
give me
I
just
vote
2.
for.
2's not enough. I need more than 2. Nobody gets to just do 2.
Sorry.
I'm putting my chair hat on. We got to be able to make it cool here.
I mean, respect is good. Wait, what did I say now?
Remember gratitude and
You
respect.
can make up your own,
I don't
Emily.
remember
Make
too.
up your own too. I just like, this is just the pool.
I can't remember the 2 other ones I said.
There's also more of the word list down here at the bottom, right? I mean, if you,
Mhm. I mean, I think grace is a good word. I want to say a word that's like the golden rule. Like, I don't know, like something like that.
I spent a lot of time thinking about words this afternoon and just kicking things around, trying to.
It's difficult.
No.
So
Sorry.
go ahead.
The new mural, it says involve and evolve. Is that it? The one on Spring Street?
Stay involved.
Yes.
Evolve.
So
Evolve
those,
and evolve. Mhm.
so those are used to cross those off. Oh, I liked welcome.
What,
I might need one more
did
word.
I-
from you,
one more
and I
word
can
from
talk
you?
about the
Oh
3
my
that we've got that already
gosh.
overlap from 4 of us. So
Sparkle would be hilarious.
yeah, I thought about that. I was like, I don't want to get into that conversation because that there's too much kind of back story.
What
there.
about shine?
Huh?
Shine on, like
Oh, no,
shine on. That's my
You want me to put that
suggestion.
down as your fifth
Is
word? I will.
shine or shine on as 2 words.
Okay.
What's the beautification preservations group that covers up graffiti, isn't
I
it?
know, but I said that would just, I didn't
Oh,
think I
that's
wanted
the
to like,
Aren't
sprinkle.
they the shine?
I didn't think I wanted to poke that
It's
bear.
sprinkle. There was going to be a skunk.
Okay, so since we're, all right, so I think this, all right, so so my words actually were the list that I put there. So here's where we overlap, right? Between the 4 of us who are here.
I actually like hope too, Tracy.
Okay, that's a good one. I
Mhm.
agree. That's a good word. All right, so all of us so I'm going to write them down. All of us overlap on remember. All of us overlap on respect. And actually, I know from a conversation with Hughes, he really liked that word too, but he doesn't really count because, right, he's not here this evening. 3 out of the 4 of us also overlap on the word dream. So potentially that could move forward with a reasonable amount of.
I wouldn't be opposed to dream.
Okay.
I'm fine with
So
that.
from there, we need 2 more, right?
Oh, what?
And that's 3, unless we just want to do 3.
Can we pick where we're going to put these 3 in locations?
Sure, I think
maybe,
that-
roughly, and then we can see where to put the other 2 words.
Well, we have to come up with the other 2, but yes,
Yeah.
we can. Yeah.
Understand is good. Or yeah. Sorry, we can keep
That's
going.
okay. Nope. We're gonna. This is where he's gonna open up a bit.
Well, Tracy, I like your suggestion with the placement of remember.
Okay. So thinking about in that kind of
Founders Landing area.
lower harbor, or not lower harbor, but the Founders Landing-ish area.
I also like that you tied it in with like the history of remember from what it was before.
And
but
to
I
be
also
memory, like I
like
think,
that
again,
you're
it's-
leaving town. Remember us.
That's going to depend on who puts forward a proposal and what proposal gets picked. Right?
Yeah.
Lots
So
of
there's
opportunities
2
there.
meanings.
So
could
yeah,
even-
many meanings and
Yeah.
opportunities. Okay, so we'll say at least tentatively, and we'll make an official motion here at some point that we're talking potentially about Founders Landing. What about the word respect? Are we going to put it at McCarty's Cove? Because is that on the nose also?
Well, you have to respect the water because
Yeah.
it's
That's
around
true.
right
And there's
there.
respect that way too.
Yeah.
Like
Picnic
respect
Rock.
the tide, right? In terms
Yeah.
of the tide.
And then it was recently,
That's what. So do we like?
Maybe between Picnic Rocks and McCarty's Cove, you could do respect.
I
Okay.
like that there. Is that going to be too
Rocks.
controversial anyway?
It's actually you'd have some people who would actually think that's kind of great.
I think, okay. That's
so
where
what
I
about-
originally saw
Yeah.
it.
So what about the word dream?
I feel like that should go up by more towards Presque Isle. Was that one of our locations? Oh, they're on here. Oh, we're thinking more.
But
can
it
be
could be,
for
but it
6
could be at like
locations.
right near.
So
It could go by Clark Lambros Park if that's we think like that. I mean, there's also a lot of. I was reading about him today, the kind of his story coming to the area and like sort of establishing a business and moving to a new area and just that vision. I mean, there's again
that's
from
where I got the impact.
Dream
Yeah.
could also be Lower Harbor Park near there.
there's also that would potentially be too.
Yeah, the new playground, they're still planning
Oh, sure.
that area. They're still dreaming about that area. A lot of festivals happen in that area.
It's a fun, it's kind of a youthful word.
So do we want to say Lower Harbor?
It's
But I
also highly trafficked. I mean,
also
like,
welcome there.
Okay,
like,
that's good. All right. So then we need 2 words and 2 spots. So currently, right. So our words at the moment are remember, potentially down at Founders Landing, respect in the gap somewhere between Picnic Rocks and McCarty's Cove, and dream somewhere down in Lower Harbor. So the other words that folks had lobbed out, we had.
So what about the commons? Do you think we should be doing one over there? Like by the, where they have the farmer's market, it is the city commons, right? Isn't that building called that? There's that bike path, the iron ore.
I think sure. So what kind of?
And then I also, if you were thinking like Clark Park, Presque Isle Way, that would be 2 more locations and that would put us at 5.
Yep.
what about gratitude? Like gratitude for farmers, gratitude for public space.
Sure.
I like that as an idea. How do I mean, but again, we've got other folks. And Christina, you sort of nodded. I thought I was, but I wasn't sure. Leah, you're sort of not
I
sure,
like
or
gratitude better with down, I don't know, I feel like more towards the park, Clark's Park, because that was all donated, wasn't it? So then you're grateful and they kind of go together, right?
What was our other word that we had sort of at the top, Tracy?
so there's remember, respect. I'm gonna here. I'll do this. Let me do this here. I'm gonna just start writing them down here at the end of this bit. So we've got. I'm gonna do this.
I remember everyone we talked about for every place, but there were some that aren't on the list yet.
I like community and connect for kind of by the farmer's market.
Oh yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
I like, that's where I like connect, I think, because it's supposed to be where you come together, right?
I also like gratitude because the people who feed us right now are really important. Like really, really important.
The one bit I will say about liking that word there is it's the gratitude to have a commons, right? This idea that you would be grateful to have a common place where we can come together, where we are willing to come together, as an idea,
As
and
a metaphor.
as a metaphor. like I'm sorry, but I feel like, can we just find a spot, like, not the
I have gratitude for that, for people coming together for the common good.
like that. So that part I do. I like that idea as a possibility as well, so that what we're grateful for is kind of a central touchstone of some sort. But again, that's I think that's mine, and like I think Emily and I, it's kind
I
of
thought we were gonna do 4, or are we
said
going to do 5
potentially,
now?
depending on our words, we might be able to do 5, right? But it
Okay.
depends on what our thing is. But we still need to sort of figure out again. So I okay. So we're gonna. I'm actually in terms of gratitude, I actually I like that word also at the commons. But so I need, like, Christina and Leah,
I'm fine with it there. That's a good word.
Are you all right with it, Christina?
What's the other word? Did we decide yet?
We haven't decided
What
on our
if we did a
word
short
yet.
one? What if we did hope somewhere? That's short.
We have all the letters for that, except for, yeah, we do. If we wanted to do hope too.
Okay, so how
We
do y'all
wouldn't
feel
have
about
O,
that?
but we could.
Yeah, we do in lower. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at welcome. Or no,
We
we're not
could
doing that.
flip the
Tracy.
C. We could make O work with the C, couldn't we?
And if not, again, we've got a buffer, right? We've got a budgetary buffer to do the math, right? That's why this was the sort of like, if we're clever, we can, and you're doing, Emily, what I think I was doing earlier, which is how many letters like overlap so that you can like strategically
I'm like, I'm not doing this right
yeah,
now.
I did that earlier today.
But I think hope would be really good by Lambros Park because he had so much hope and
it's a good word. It's, and
it's a good word. All right. So currently, what we're talking about is the word remember at Founders Landing, somewhere along that stretch. The word respect somewhere along the bike path between Picnic Rock and McCarty's Cove. The word dream somewhere in the Lower Harbor vicinity. The word gratitude around the Commons, and the word hope around Clark Lambros Park. Yep. Right. That's currently, and again, with the notion that we're going to have the letters will be there. The interior would be at minimum what you have to address, but give like the creators the prospect of also extending that, right? If they need the additional flourishes to lead the eye or to help ground their interpretation of these words at that spot, they have a little bit of flexibility as well. I'm not going to receive that, but can I get a motion?
I make a motion to approve gratitude for the Commons, hope for Lambros Park, respect for Picnic Rocks or McCarty's Cove, remember for Founders Landing, and dream for Lower Harbor.
Can I get a second?
With the flourish space around the word.
Okay. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Can I get seconds? All those in favor, please say yes. Yes, please. Yes. Emily?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Just making sure we're official. So we passed that unanimously. Lovely.
I have one other thing. Like when you I was just using Google Slides. I could use help making templates. I don't know if I'm doing it right or
Oh, I
anything.
could do that.
Nothing
We can
to
easily
fail.
do that in Illustrator, right?
Emily, if
so-
you're willing to tackle that, that would be spectacular. I'm happy to pass on all the information I've got in
When
terms
do you, I mean, when do you need the actual letters to
think-
be, I mean, the templates to be ready by?
Tina, do you think we're going to need any more information on those? I don't know that we're going to need to know more. Like if I
I
think if
wouldn't be
vacancy-
able to do it this week is what I'm saying.
We got to get this approved, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
But they don't need to see. As
Tina,
long as
you're
I think they
muted.
can see an example of the word, and respect is one of the words we're using. I think that's going to be sufficient for the approval process, and then it'll be the information that we need to get to the printers. I think that can.
Yeah, we have all of the information we need to do a very nice presentation on Monday. I am so elated by all the words and their placement. And it connects so much with the cultural trail. Just you're actually just with this process transforming how we interact. It's exciting. Good job, guys. I think it's just fabulous.
Okay, so I know the other thing, Linnea, if you can, in talking, as a reminder, talking to the paint person, talk about paint grit, and at least reached on their experience to see if they think that's going to be necessary. It might just behoove us, even if we only mix it in the paint that paints the boundaries of the letters, right? So there is some additional grip there, but we don't literally mix it into every gallon of paint. But have that conversation, because your paint person is going to be the best paint expert, right? I don't want to.
Okay. And he
but I
was
think
very
that's really
willing to
wise for us to
donate
consider.
whatever they have because they recycle paint there. Because
So that's bonus. We'll have.
And are we now, the quotes with the graphics and everything was through Cooks? Should we be contacting that? Like, I don't know how.
What was the
I mean,
cost?
About
What was
doing
the
anything, we have
cost?
to be approved first, right?
Well,
Yeah.
we
Well,
just have to put, we have a tentative budget, right? We have a
Yeah.
tentative budget, and we've got a buffer. So my understanding is that we just need, this next step is the parks people and the city people. We're not talking about this costing $40,000, right? We have a framework within which to work, that once we then, if we've got these words, then we can figure out how many of each letter, right? How many different letters of the alphabet we need that we then piece together.
Just make a
And then
file
from
of those letters.
There we can move
and
forward, but
send it to
that
them in what-
won't matter to the city. We just need to know that basically it's going to be about $97 a letter, right? That's
Right.
what they're going to need to know. We
Right,
need
and Linnea, if it goes over 3,000, then we're required to get 3 quotes. If it's under 3,000, then we can choose the vendor.
Okay.
So just so you know that.
but I don't
Okay,
think
so we're good. Well, I worked with people in the city. I also called Signs, but I think Unlimited, it's listed. I think
Signs Now.
Oh, it was the one in the city, and
Oh.
he was more vague and approximated, and he said my material is 56 and it'd be really thin. And Cook, I was very happy with how I talked with him, and then he sent me a whole nother visual. So I think if we're thinking about keeping these and using them, that would be the way to go.
And I don't think we need to include that unless they ask.
Okay.
So, mhm.
I make one other suggestion for Monday then. So can we just look at that, Linnea, I know you had outlined a timeline for the project, but I feel like we should just make sure we're on the same page with that so that we can, so I feel like we should present that and, kind of
yeah,
not.
this is going to definitely be different.
Yes,
We're
I was
not-
just trying to, I was going at this blind. I'm like, okay, how would this work? So.
So I feel like we should
Feel
just.
free to edit that. You can change right on there, Tracy.
Okay, so what do y'all, so right now we're going to be talking about this actually happening realistically in August, correct?
September, I thought.
Well, but we could actually have if this looks like it's moving forward, we could have submissions
Oh, yeah, submissions
essentially
in,
happening before.
submissions in August and then production in September.
So
So-
that was the meeting, that was before our meeting. So
When would we want potentially, so we would hopefully know within the next 2 weeks whether or not this even has legs, right?
Yeah,
So
I think we
could
have
we
to push it
basically, and
off.
once we know it has legs,
I think it has to be like from August 15th to, I don't know.
September 1st?
It's such a short turnaround.
Yeah, but if we're
for-
talking about voting in our September.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm just,
Which is why I'm wondering if we think we're gonna have, like, if we think this has got legs, could we actually have the thing go out like the first week in August, just as the proposal?
well, it has to get approved by everybody before you can do that.
Yeah, we need to wait till Monday, I think. I mean, we can have a
Okay.
proposed timeline based on the approval of Parks and Rec on Monday. Otherwise, everything gets pushed back to mid.
I would just make that a proposed timeline working, you know, with suggestions
All
from
right, so
Parks and Rec.
so if it, say it opens, say we can just, and this is tentative, right, the 15th, and then if it closed on, actually, if we close then, because we would then have to look at it, because our first meeting in September would be the 8th.
Mhm.
We're meeting on the 2nd. So, and we're gonna need to be able to have
No,
discussions.
Wednesday would be the 9th. You're on the wrong day.
Right, sorry, sorry, y'all can also look at my teaching schedule now. If we had proposals due, if we're willing to have proposals due by the 1st, we could potentially, also, we're speculating whether or not we're gonna need more than one meeting to make a decision.
You could have a special meeting. We could.
Yeah, but
call a
we would need to
special
have that
meeting.
special meeting on the 2nd if we were gonna be willing to make a decision by the
Right.
9th, if we wanted people to be able to start painting by like the 19th of September.
You're in August right now, though.
No, I'm not.
Or she's going in
Just-
September.
It just didn't flip.
Oh,
Just
okay.
didn't.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. No. So I'm just thinking if we actually want people to be able to start, whether that's a good thing, we're going to start on, you know, holiday or not. Otherwise, we would potentially, unless we thought we could take things by September 1st, make a decision on the 2nd and have people starting to paint by the 12th. But I don't know that I don't think we want to
Well,
give
if our
ourselves just
meeting is
24
on
hours
the
to make a
9th,
decision.
No,
our
we
meeting
don't,
is
we
on
do
the
not.
9th, we would be able to make our decision on the meeting of the 9th and then 2 days to notify, and they could begin as soon as the 14th.
But we
But-
kind of really just want to give them like a 1-week window or something. to
I
do
think we should give them a 1-week window.
At least, yeah.
I
at
think a
least.
week is sufficient. So I mean, the question is, if we're all right receiving proposals by the end of this week,
Is a week sufficient though, if somebody's gonna not know or know to get
Yeah.
everything in order to
And if
start
they have to
painting?
work-
They
okay,
have, I don't think that is making,
so then do we push that back on us making a decision faster, or do we push?
no, I mean, maybe they don't start until the
21st.
or 25th.
21st is a Monday, and we've got to make sure that there's staff who can, I mean, the question for you then, Tina, is it easier for your staff or better for your staff to be going and supervising and painting this stuff during the week or on a weekend?
We can be flexible with the days that we work. You know, when we get into the details, we might want to hire someone to assist, an artist, you know, we might want to think about that, but I know staff, we can be flexible about being present. And we might, you know, obviously find some volunteers too from different arts organizations to help.
Right, will that coordinator, shouldn't that be part of our budget as we submit this?
But actually, Tina, you had said that your staff, if it was done in September, we wouldn't
If
have
you
to
guys
pay
were,
for the
if you
coordinator.
wanted to save the money so that money would go for artists actually painting, I'm open to that. But because this is a unique project, you know, obviously it's more ideal to hire a project coordinator, but I also feel like this is our first, it's community-based. I'm open, especially if that allows more money to pay someone.
And
paint.
unlike the project that I'm going to call it the Boulder project, this
Right.
project was not about providing
Compensation.
financial stimulus to create it. This is about a community giving, like through the act of creation, right? There's no stipend that was
Right.
associated with this.
But then by not doing this, we can do 4 of the other projects.
Well, but yeah, by basically moving it to September, we can have one that is more driven by community outreach and financial stimulus. If we move it to one, we're gonna have to move it to September just due to approvals.
Right.
But also it gives us another opportunity, and recognizing that some people who are going to submit things aren't technically going to be artists, like they you know, in that designation, that they are going to be a community group that might put forward a winning proposal for this. So we're back to timelines.
Can we say dates dependent upon city clerk
Approval.
approval? Because I think we're going to spend a lot of time talking about that right now, and we still have to talk about what, like maybe when, what was the other thing we had to talk about?
There, that's going to be.
I just think we should give like a high level. I'm fine if it's not exact dates. I just feel like we should, I just think if we're involving other city commissions that might not be as close to the project, I just think it's good to have an idea of like, this is now already running into mid-September, just to kind of get a sense for the urgency of it.
Yeah, I think dates dependent on city commission approval and committee's approval is fine. I mean, the timeline, I think that's fine to say at this point. They know that.
We're shooting for September. If we could say that so that
Weather after September generally is,
yeah, we're not going to be doing this in October.
No, yeah, we know that, yeah.
So.
All right. And
So production wouldn't begin until September.
for the time being, I'm just going to put this just to get us a date.
And
And then shoot their, second half of September, they would be painting.
and this should say begin instead of being. It was an autocorrect. But I'm pointing to the screen like you can see what I'm talking about, and you
Yeah, it's not going to work, sweetie.
I keep trying to scroll too.
Yeah, no, that's also going to be a problem, right?
You all have access. It is in the.
I know, but my screen is.
All right, so that gives us at least something, right? All right. So
I think there should be a subcommittee to look at these proposals potentially, or do you think the whole committee needs to look at it?
Subcommittee folks. I think we've all had a good look at it. I think to keep things moving forward and have a subcommittee sort of be working this. If we've all looked at this and have we're pretty strongly like committed to this as it stands, but to do the finalization, to get all the details hammered out, I think we should trust one another. Right. I mean, that's the whole point of coming together as a collective is to trust that we have the expertise to do what we need to do. So yes, if a subcommittee wants to tackle the finalization of this, I'm happy to pass on whatever. If you would like me to be on that subcommittee, I will. I'm also fine backing away. Right. I think that would be lovely, actually.
I mean, the other things that we need to think about for this are an application and what that will look like.
Yep.
A call for entry and what that will look like and where that will go.
Yep. And so, Tina, we also, in that way, I would say, is there a web location where this can be housed either off of Arts and Culture or the city?
Yeah, the city, we have our protocol with press releases, and then we have our own internal, groups and stakeholders that we send the stuff out. So it'll be a city website, all social media. Everything would be covered,
Okay, so
all the arts organizations would receive it, all their newsletters, it would be widely distributed.
And would we be able to have an online application form, or would just be an online call that then they would have to actually email that application into us, right? Their designs and proposals.
Could there be like a Google form that we use as the application form? That way we all have access to it in the drive if we can all be collaborators.
Yeah, a Google form would be great, and just the link to that, yeah.
And what about would it be able to print as a PDF? Because I think you want to be able to dictate size so it doesn't distort.
I think you can do that. But in the Google form, what you'll have to do is you'll have to have us build into the form a space for images and dictate what the file sizes should be within the form so that you're getting everything the same from everyone.
So with that, are there individuals willing to act as a subcommittee let's do first things first, as a subcommittee to make sure that this proposal is going to be glistening, shiny, and ready to go for basically Monday of next week, right?
Monday morning, yeah.
And again, what I mean, there's not a lot of changes to be made, but with the changes that do need to be made.
I can make more changes. I just hope I do it right. So I'd like someone else to look at it.
All right, Linnea, I will look over it. I will sit on that subcommittee to make that happen. And then as we move forward, we will talk about or see if there are folks who are willing to step up and do the kind of application process. Because that bit,
That's where I need help.
I can help that. I can help with that down the road. I just can't help with it this week.
okay, so Emily, that would be great. We don't need to finalize that for this first part, so that would be fantastic. Okay.
And a little bit of the description, that would be nice in this proposal too, you know, and I think you did write something, I'm forgetting now, I can't see it.
At the top, there you go.
Okay, yeah, you know, kind of why we're
Change the
doing
date.
it. Just a short synopsis will be great for PSAs and the proposal.
Christina, at the beginning, I don't think anybody addressed what your question was. Your question was, what is the goal of this project? And so at least if we have what the goal of this project is as a paragraph, I think that will be helpful in narrating what we're trying to do for the Parks and Rec and City Commission.
Okay. Yes.
I mean, the community engagement's big. I also, Colorado really, if we go back to Boulder, really states it nicely. And I like the fact that you bring attention to what's happening right now, the current events that are happening.
But we're also not proposing that second project right at this moment, are we?
No. Yeah, you're right. That connects
So
more.
I was just like, whoa, wait.
But is there some
stop.
wording that you want as goals? I'm really not a wordy person.
We'll talk about, like I said, I think if
Yeah,
y'all are
I mean,
willing
I think it's like about community engagement on all levels and
Yeah.
providing a touchstone of art for people of all ages, regardless of their ability, because art has the ability to transform our experiences, even in our everyday lives. You know,
by the way, this is all recorded on YouTube, so we can just go back and transcribe like the closed caption
Right.
version of what Emily just did there.
Perfect.
Thanks.
And what are you guys calling it? Do we have a formal title, Bike Path Words, or?
Do we have a
wait a minute, out. Like, I think it should be something about out of lines or like, we've been so confined, like unconfined, or I don't know, like, I can't think of anything succinct right at this moment, but I think it
I think
sort
the
of,
template.
It could be a working title and the fancy title comes with the press release. So,
it's sort of like, I don't know.
but I like that thinking.
Stencil.
I feel like, you know, we're asking people to work inside and outside the lines, or inside or outside, and we've been so used to being sort of confined. I don't know.
Inside, outside. Huh.
But then you might have people that'll just decorate the outside and leave the inside.
Well, I think we'll be explicit in our.
Okay.
All right. So then will it be Tina, you will be presenting this on Monday then? Is that correct?
We'll see
Or-
what it looks like. It might be they just read it. I will
Okay.
offer to be there for questions. I guess I will be present at the Zoom meeting if they have questions.
Okay, thank you.
And maybe, you know, if you can be on, I'll know tomorrow if maybe they want one of you to be on hand.
I unfortunately have a conflict at 5:30 on Mondays every Monday.
If I
Okay.
had to, I can make it happen. I mean, if I can just zoom in for that particular window, I could be available.
I mean, I feel comfortable with
But-
all the language you guys have presented, you know, literally just quickly giving them a synopsis and answering questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right. So, is it possible for like, just, I know we're running long, but are y'all willing to take a moment to have a quick bit of feedback about the logo so that I can tell Forrester kind of where we are with that? Even if we only get to that part of old business,
Sure.
that would be amazing for us to do. Again, I know what Hughes's stance is because I had to call about something else. Again, he's not here and he doesn't get to vote, but I at least know kind of where he is on all of this. I'll step in. I don't usually do this. I'm much happier with the adjusted rag edge. I think it looks better as a unified block as opposed to Marquette Public Art Commission, right? In that kind of slightly staged way. I also think if we end up screening, it makes for a nicer, more condensed
I agree.
unit.
And
I actually don't think that the counters or the stylized apertures personally make that much of a difference. I just am happier with the version with the adjusted rag, right? But I then open it up to y'all to see if beyond fixing this, if there are one of these that y'all feel more strongly about than the just adjusted rag version.
can you move it to the left a little bit more? Is there any way? Thank you.
Sorry,
Couldn't move all of you.
we'll do this.
I like the center top the best.
This
This one,
adjusted rag, yeah.
yep. Christina, do you have a sense or a feeling on things?
I think that one to me is just the cleanest one. The other ones kind of have a lot going on.
Okay, M?
I already said, yeah,
Okay.
adjusted rag.
All right, so can we make the motion and move this sucker forward that we will accept the newly revised?
We will accept the newly revised adjusted rag proposal from Mike Forrester.
All right,
I make it the motion.
thank you. Can I get a second? Christina seconds. All those in favors, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. By the way, that's the one that Hughes likes too, so that's a bonus. So this can, I will get in touch with Mike Forrester. We can get this thing out the flipping door. Which also I made a note, like, as part of this, do we actually want along the bike path with those works, do we want to get a little stencil that actually has that logo that we put next to those things or not?
That would
Like,
be
that's-
really easy to do.
I know,
As long
but
as
so-
Forrester
Very
can give me
nice.
an
that
illustrator.
was kind of a note. So that's
Yeah.
with that. Plus that should stencil like a champ.
Oh
right?
yeah.
I mean, that should-
Yeah, we can ask Forrester for an illustrator.
yeah, and we'll get that. And that once we've got an Illustrator file, it's super easy for that stuff. Cool. Well,
Can you, Tracy, so you're gonna call him, right? Or
I'll
talk to
email
him
him.
about this?
yeah, I'll email
And then
Forrester.
he knows that I'm ready for the Friends of, he wanted to decide on this design, and then he's already got ideas that I probably want this group to look at too.
Okay.
Um,
So yeah,
okay,
I'll
sure.
email him tonight or first thing tomorrow morning about that. Okay. And so Linnea, I'm going to let you do your other info in good of the order, because I think that's good of the order
Okay.
worthy if you want to do it. The Artsopolis, I don't want to keep people here much longer because I know it's 20 after and folks have stuff. So if we're willing to talk about the Artsopolis public module next time, we will have more information in terms of our budget that we can clarify as well. And I've already tasked Hughes to start getting his thing for Project Backboard. Like, he's going to tackle the initial draft of an RFP for that we'll be able to take a look at, and we can move forward. I guess the one thing that somehow didn't somehow make it to the agenda, and so my apologies because we said that it would, was tied to our one public comment that had happened at our previous meeting that we said we would actually discuss the prospect of a mural. But my hope is that maybe we've found a route through the bike path project to also
or
address.
through the other project.
Right. So at least I'm hoping that even if we didn't explicitly sort of come to it as a this individual at this time, that we've dealt with that. So I wanted to at least bring that up. So before we go off, good of the order. Linnea, do you want to do your bit there to?
Yes. A member of Rotary had said that they had informed me of a grant that doubles anything that Rotary would contribute. And there is Marquette Rotary, the Breakfast Club, and Rotary West. So those three, so anything that they do would double. There's also been money donated from the Shiris Foundation. They gave to that playground where we're going to be doing the Project Backboard, and the Reynolds Foundation. So the Friends of, there's some leads for them, and then Rotary, anything putting in to be doubled. So they could help cover some of the cost of resurfacing.
Could you just email me all of those contacts and everything that you've shared here, and then I can follow up?
Most definitely.
So yeah, that's some good partnerships that are potentially opening up for us with that, which is,
Wouldn't that be nice if you didn't have to spend your
well, it just means that we've got
money on
more opportunities.
re-asphalting, you know? Wouldn't that be
We've got more
great?
opportunities.
Yeah.
Anybody else have good bits to share?
Oh, well, I have something else to share too. Dennis got hearing aids last Wednesday, and that was, or last Thursday, that was pretty exciting. So my 3-year-old now can hear the best he's ever been able to.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic.
That's amazing.
That's really good. That's really good.
The
All right.
museum is opening next month. And we're gonna have North of the 45th open virtually, and publication is going to be printed. And so watch for links and other talks and stuff in association with that.
Awesome. Christina, you have anything?
I don't think I do.
And I don't have anything either. Well, then we will call it good at 8:22 p.m. Again, thank y'all for the extra 22 minutes. We've got a bunch done, which is spectacular. Linnea, if you want to just either by email or call me, and we'll set up a time to sort of hash out any of the additional specifics on that proposal. We'll get that knocked out so that, Tina, you've got that in hand for that meeting on Monday. But yeah, woohoo. Off we
Thanks.
go. Yep. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
and we will resume again in a couple of weeks in August. And we'll
Oh
pick
yeah,
something
and
up.
Tracy, any notes that you've updated regarding the project, just if I could have them for tomorrow, just to talk to John.
Okay, all the, like, a chunk of this stuff is on here. I will
On the Google Drive.
Yep,
It's
and
all in my drive.
yeah, it's all in her
Perfect,
drive.
okay,
I will
okay, perfect.
what I will do is I guess what additional notes would be valuable for you to have? Is this valuable for you to have?
Yeah, I can pick and choose from them. So any locations, cost, just that I can't
think-
see anything on this computer.
Okay,
so
that's okay. I will
Tracy,
go ahead, Linnea.
Can you just copy and paste that into that document so we have it in one spot?
Yep, it's happening right now.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, thank you.
Hopefully that
Easy
didn't,
peasy.
I didn't want it to go there.
That's fine.
The
We'll
end.
be-
No, I don't want it to go there. I want it to go
I
at
don't
the
need all the
end.
pictures of my kids in there either. I was just to show you.
There, right at the end. And then I'll quick make a note about the locations and the words before I'm done tonight.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right.